Awesome, awesome. Welcome, everyone. My name is Alyssa Harriman, and I am a registered nutritionist. I've been teaching nutrition now for 17 years, and my area of expertise is nutritional therapy for those going through cancer. And I've been specializing in that area for 14 years. I teach the cancer certification program. I'm one of two instructors in all of Canada that teach that program at Edison Institute of Nutrition. I teach the nutrition program for Doula Canada, and I'm on the advisory panel for CanFit Pro, and I'm a busy mom of four, so I understand the challenges that busy families face. And what you are experiencing right now is a program, and this hormone and weight loss program is really designed to help you understand that improving body composition is not a mathematical equation. I know we were taught for many years, just cut stuff, just starve, like cut calories, cut fat, cut carbohydrates. And the reality is proper building your health, improving body composition, which means you're building lean tissue, you're burning off fatty tissue. It's not a mathematical equation. It's actually about doing the things that help to balance hormones, help to improve gut health, help to support a healthy immune system. It's about helping your body release toxins, break down and detoxify and cleanse properly. And really, there's no one size fits all approach. So the goal of this program is to give you information that's going to help you be in a position to make really great choices, and also going to help you be in a position where you can start to identify some things that you maybe need to work on, or some strategies to make some improvements on those areas that you need to work on. So you're going to get a lot of information thrown at you. I want to encourage you to revisit these classes. You'll find them in 500 Families. You'll find them in the Hormone and Weight Loss group. And if you are a client watching this, you will find it inside your portal. So these programs are, again, designed to empower you and to put you in the driver's seat of your health. And thank you to everyone who's tuning in live tonight. We have an amazing class, and I'm going to keep my eye on that chat. I'm also going to hang around at the end of the class and make sure all of your questions get answered. So please take advantage of doing that. So the first 2 weeks of this program, we're going to focus on what we're doing to, like, week one, we're going to understand what are the main hormones that really impact individuals when it comes to weight management. Specifically women, they're usually the ones that really struggle with the hormone issues around weight loss or improved body composition. So week one, we're going to look at what are those hormones and how can we identify if there's a challenge in those hormones. In week two, we're going to look at how to support those hormone pathways. What that means is, how do we equip the body to balance out and support normal hormone activity in the body? Because a lot of times when hormones are interrupting with how we feel or our ability to lose weight, is because they're actually out of balance. So we're going to identify tonight what those imbalances look like, what you can do to try to figure out where you're landing in all of this. And then in week two, we're going to show you some corrective measures for each of those hormones, which is awesome. Week three, I'm going to take you through cleansing protocol, because in order to properly break down fatty tissue, we got to be able to deal with the toxins inside of it. So I am going to give you my personal, from my practice, seasonal cleansing protocol to give you something to follow, and you can continue to follow. And of course, all of these materials, these classes are going to happen live, but the materials that support the classes are going to be put inside the Hormone and Weight Loss group with the meal plans. We got 7 weeks of meal plans prepared for you that are going to support your journey as well. And then we're going to tie it up at the end by sharing on week 4. We have some incredible speakers lined up who've had phenomenal results just focusing on living in healthier bodies. And we are going to feature their journeys so that you can be inspired, you can ask them questions, you can understand what worked for them. They all live in very different bodies. They have very different backgrounds. You are going to absolutely love it. So this is a big deal. These programs retail in private practices for around $1,200. So this is a really, really big deal, and a gift, our gift to you, to our community, for being here with us and for helping for you supporting us, and we want to support you in your healthy living journey. So let's dive right in tonight. We got a lot of content to cover. So let's talk about how hormones impact weight loss. Now, there are a lot of hormones that really impact. There's hormones that make us hungry. There's hormones that make us feel satisfied. There's all kinds of hormones in our body. Our endocrine system is very interconnected. What I wanted to do tonight, to keep it simple, but because these are the most common ones I see in my practice, I wanted to keep it to three, the big three as I call them. Now, and those big three are, we're going to look at, those big three are thyroid, adrenals, and our estrogen levels. And over the next second week, we're actually going to look at support. So this week, you're going to start to figure out, okay, what out of these three are potentially like, is my thyroid impacting my weight loss? Are my adrenal glands impacting my weight loss? Is my estrogen out of balance? And is that impacting my weight loss? And what we're going to do is we're going to look at, are they the problem this week? And then next week, we're going to look at how to fix them. So you're going to be able to figure out, okay, what area do I need to focus on? And then next week, you're going to get some protocol that's going to help you do that. Now, I absolutely love this image. I've already thrown it up inside the private hormone and weight loss group because it just gives such a great example of how interconnected our body is. A lot of times there's this philosophy that we are the individual parts make up the body, and it's not. Everything inside our body is interconnected. And that's why nutrition is so effective at helping you build health and longevity, and in normalizing things that are out of balance, is because we equip the body to heal and repair itself when our nutrition and our lifestyle is good. So this, give you an example here. So if the adrenals, elevated stress hormone levels suppress thyroid function. So if you're somebody, when we talk about the adrenal section tonight, if you're like, that's me, that also can be impacting your thyroid. This decreases thyroid function and slows liver detoxification. This then obviously impacts the liver. As liver detox slows, gut function declines. And as gut function declines, adrenal function increases. So we become this cycle of these hormones. And the reason I shared that with you is because as we go through these three big hormone areas, you might be like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm checking the boxes in all of them. And there's a reason for that. If we're highly stressed, that impacts thyroid function. If that impacts thyroid, that can impact the liver. Liver is largely responsible for properly metabolizing estrogen. Excess estrogen ends up inside the gut. If the liver and the gut are not functioning well, elevated estrogen levels can happen. And you can see how the big three actually interconnect with each other. So let's keep going through. So thyroid, there's two main areas that symptoms are diagnosis that happen. It's hypothyroid, your thyroid is underactive, or there's hyperthyroid where your thyroid is overactive. Typically with overactive thyroid, we don't tend to see challenges with weight loss. In fact, we can see some rapid weight loss and have to work on some dietary measures to deal with that in the hyperthyroid end of things. So we're really looking at this underactive thyroid, and we're going to look at what can impact your thyroid and make it underactive. So hyperthyroidism, weight loss, increased appetite. Everyone's going to be like, I'll take hyperthyroidism. You won't, trust me, you don't want it, but fast heart rate, anxiety, nervousness, irritability, shaking, sweating, feeling warm, often insomnia, and they can test your thyroid stimulating hormone to see if your numbers are within range and diagnose you with that. Muscle weakness, thin skin, brittle hair. So hypothyroidism is where the thyroid gland is not working properly. It is greatly influenced by our environment. And this is where the symptoms that hypothyroidism can actually interfere with weight loss. So the hyperthyroidism can be one of the side effects is weight gain or difficulty losing weight, constipation, fatigue, forgetfulness, depression, dry skin and hair, slow heart rate, feeling cold often, or having a greater sensitivity to cold, and changes in the menstrual cycle. So these are just a few symptoms. This is by no means a chart to self-diagnose, but to help you understand that symptoms usually are related to something. There's a root cause for all things. So when we look at the thyroid gland regulates the rate of metabolism for most of the body's cells. So when your thyroid gland is poorly functioning or under functioning, that can actually help to bring down your metabolism and lower your metabolic rate, which basically just means you burn less calories. And some of the symptoms of a lower metabolic rate can also be fatigue as well, just not feeling rested, feeling tired all of the time, not feeling super motivated. All right, let's keep going. So it impacts the rate at which cells utilize energy and synthesize proteins. And the thyroid gland uses tiny amounts of iodine to produce thyroid hormones, thyroxine T4, and I can't pronounce that, T3. These two hormones regulate the rate of metabolism, influence physical and mental growth, and influence differentiation of tissues. So these hormones play a pretty big role in our metabolism and how our body operates on a day-to-day basis. And we do need to have a little bit of iodine in our diet. Now, because for those of us who don't live on the coast, we don't tend to have a lot of iodine in our foods. That's actually why they started to iodinize salt. So if you buy, normal table salt, it'll say that it's iodinized. And the reason is because we do absolutely have to have iodine for survival. And there are tests that you can do to tell if you are deficient in iodine, which is the iodine spot test. So see if I've been included in my slides. If not, somebody remind me at the end and I'll definitely answer the question on how to test if you are iodine deficient. A really easy way to overcome an iodine deficiency, or if you're hypothyroid, we'll talk about it next week as we talk about foods to support, is seaweed. And there's lots of different ways that you can incorporate seaweed. All right, let's keep going. So let's look at some risk factors for your thyroid. What could interfere with your thyroid's ability to function optimally? So number one is pesticides. Now, you are going to see pesticides show up a lot, and that's part of the reason why we built an entire class around cleansing protocols, is because we need to, number one, reduce the amount of these chemicals that come into our body. And number two, we need to be able to break them down, because if we don't break them down, they get stored in our body and they actually disrupt the hormonal systems of our body. X-rays can impact thyroid function. In fact, I currently have a client who was accidentally exposed to x-rays and is having some thyroid challenges because of that. Alcohol and drugs, fluoridated water. Fluoride actually interferes. Fluoride is very similar to iodine and actually blocks the activity of iodine by the thyroid gland and actually prevents the thyroid from using iodine. So we really, really want to avoid fluoridated water. And that can include your toothpaste. Find a holistic dentist, talk to them about some options. We've got some great dental practitioners inside our community that can help you with some options if you're dealing with low thyroid and fluoride is something you wish to remove. It's something we wanted to remove. Too much high endurance exercise, so training for marathons, people who are exercising excessively, putting excessive stress on their body can actually interfere with thyroid function. Chronic stress, we looked at how the adrenal glands can actually impact thyroid function. We're going to look at the adrenals next. And poor nutrition, because every single, I cannot emphasize this enough in this program, every single metabolic function in your body, whether it's the hormonal system, how your brain fires and receives messages, your immune system, how your heart, your cardiovascular system, how your heart beats, how your neurological system, how everything works in your body, everything requires nutrients. And when our diets are nutrient poor, the systems don't work optimally. And as we've talked about in many classes before, we can't out supplement a bad diet. We need to get our nutrition from food. One, we eat good foods. Two, we supplement with concentrated foods, which we'll talk about in the program. So how can we diagnose hormonal imbalances? Well, number one, the first thing to do is go to your doctor and get your thyroid tested. And they will test something called TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. If the thyroid stimulating hormone is elevated, it's signs your body is trying to tell your thyroid to make more hormones. This is often how they diagnose hypothyroidism. So the stimulating hormone from the pituitary is trying to tell the thyroid to do its job, and the thyroid gland those elevated hormones are a sign that the thyroid gland is not doing its job. So elevated TSH often is diagnosed as low thyroid. Now, if your TSH is low, your body is telling your thyroid gland to make less, and that is often diagnosed as hyperthyroidism. So your body's trying to constantly regulate and balance out hormones. So if your thyroid is in that hyperthyroid state, you're going to have lower TSH, thyroid stimulating hormones, because it's trying to tell your body, to your thyroid gland, to make less of those hormones. When it comes to stubborn weight loss, we're actually looking at hypothyroidism. Now, oftentimes in my practice, I have women who come in and they have been tested, their thyroid's been tested for years by their doctor, but the doctor says that they're within range, and they might be close to being out of range, but they're still within range. And yet they have this entire host of symptoms that are really related to hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. So at that point, if they are very symptomatic and they have a lot of symptoms, what I'll tell them to do, and it is out of pocket, is go get saliva testing for their hormones. And saliva testing actually tests the active hormones. So when we go and get blood work done for our hormones, they're testing protein-bound hormones, which is the inactive hormone. When we have hormones tested through our saliva, it's unprotein bound, so it's now free, live acting hormones. So you're actually testing the active hormone levels. It is far more accurate than blood tests. And oftentimes it's not necessary, because if your blood tests come back as, out of balance or out of range, then there's a pretty good bet that your saliva tests are also. So the blood test is always the first stop. But if the symptoms are persistent and the blood work is not indicative that there's an imbalance, then the next step to go for is to have that saliva testing done, where they will test for free-floating T4 and T3. Tests for thyroid antibodies can also be performed to help determine if somebody has an autoimmune condition, such as Graves' or Hashimoto's, and these are where the immune system is impacting the way the thyroid functions, because autoimmune conditions means that the immune system is attacking the body, is attacking cells. So you can get these tests done to figure out if it's an autoimmune condition. It was long believed that autoimmune conditions were not reversible, but autoimmune conditions, there's usually a root cause for it. The body doesn't attack, the immune system doesn't attack the body if there's no reason for it. So a lot of people with nutritional and lifestyle therapy actually have really good results with autoimmune conditions in reducing or mitigating the symptoms, or complete reversals, or just living a better quality life because of that nutritional and lifestyle therapy. Now, another test that all of you can do, and we will post in the Hormone and Weight Loss group, we will post the instructions for this, is the basal temperature test. And this has been something I was taught back in nutrition school. It's very common. And basically, you take your temperature. So these instructions are included on a worksheet, and they are in the group and will help you. So shake down your thermometer so it's ready for morning. The glass thermometers are the best thermometers for the basal temp test. And place all supplies by bed where you can reach them with minimal effort in the morning. So you're going to have a normal night's sleep, but before you start moving around or doing anything in the morning, you're going to take your temperature. When you awaken, you will take your thermometer and place it in your armpit for a minimum of 5 minutes. The glass will need at least 4 minutes for accuracy. First thing in the morning, try to move minimally, not rev up your body temperature. After 5 to 10 minutes, record your temperature and go about your day as normal. So you're going to do this a few days in a row to see where it happens. So you're going to repeat this for 5 days. And ladies, you'll want to avoid starting to collect data on day 19 to 22 of your menstrual cycle, as there are fluctuations with other hormones as well and related to ovulation. And we can talk about that in our article. So your days 19 to 22 is from the first day of your period. So the first day of your period counts as day 1 of your cycle. So you would count from that day up to days 19 to 22, and try to avoid doing your basal temp test in that time frame, because there are some hormones that can really interfere with that. So let's talk about results. Normal resting body temperature should be between 97.8 and 98.2. And if consistently lower, there's a trend towards hypothyroid, decreased function patterns. So if your body temperature is a little bit lower than that, that could be indicative of a hypothyroid condition. Again, This is not diagnostics. This is to give you the tools to know what you should be asking for when you talk to your doctor or when you go for your saliva testing. If consistently above 98.2, this indicates a trend for more hyperthyroid. And again, this is not that being a diagnosis, but an indication that further testing is required. If the results are mixed, both high and low, it is more indicative of a primary adrenal stress pattern, as the adrenals and thyroid are closely linked, which could allow for variation in body temperature. So if your scores are kind of up and down, then that could be indicative that it's more an adrenal issue, which is going to help you again start to think about, okay, where in my body do I need to focus on creating some more balance? So let's look about supporting healthy thyroid, just to give you a few quick tips for this week, because of course we always want to make sure you have user-friendly information, manage your stress, light exercise daily. We're going to give you some homework each week as well throughout the entire program. Establish healthy sleep routines, it's really important. We'll talk about this more next week. It is important to have same time that you go to bed and same time that you rise 7 days a week when you are balancing hormones. Oftentimes we end up on different time schedules over weekends or with travel or vacation, and it's actually really disruptive to the hormonal process when we're trying to balance our hormones. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's just not ideal when you're trying to balance your hormones, because you're really kind of, it plays against what you're trying to do. You can eat seaweed foods such as kelp and nori for hypothyroid symptoms. We're going to talk about this a lot more next week. Avoid refined sugar and avoid fluoride, as it actually interferes with iodine absorption. Again, we have dental practitioners inside our group that can help you with that. So what about certain foods and thyroid? So I wanted to include this. We're actually going to talk about it a lot more next week. But one of the questions I often get is I shouldn't eat soy and I shouldn't eat brassicas, which is our broccoli, kale, cabbage, and cauliflower foods, because, my practitioners told me that they interfere with thyroid function. We're going to really dive into this topic next week. So I'm going to kind of sneak through this slide, but I wanted to include them this week because they are popular topics around thyroid. There's absolutely no evidence that shows that soy interferes with thyroid function. There's a lot of evidence that shows that it actually, again, helps to balance the endocrine system. And we'll talk about these next week more so. And the cruciferous vegetables, when they become problematic, is if there's an iodine deficiency in place, or if you consume buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets. The amount of cruciferous vegetables or brassicas you would have to consume to interfere with thyroid function is more than we could consume in a day. So we'll talk more about these. I have this slide built into next week's class, but I did want to bring them up just in case you're worried about eating them in week one. They're safe. They're absolutely good for your body. They help with detoxification. They have other anti-cancer properties, and they will not interfere with your thyroid. So let's move now into adrenals. Now, back in January, we actually did a 4-week adrenal program. So for those of you who were customers at the time, you got the adrenal meal plan, you got the weekly classes, we dove in, we had a naturopath come and speak to us and share some information, and we did a lot of work. And so we understood what adrenal fatigue is. And adrenal fatigue is where the body has dealt with high amounts of stress over long periods of time, and now the body either is so constantly pumping out cortisol, you can't lose weight when you're pumping out cortisol, or your adrenal glands are fatigued and they're no longer functioning optimally, and now you're not able to handle stress very well. And there's a lot of things that are wrapped into adrenal fatigue. So hopefully we'll bring that program back, in a year or two when we got a new class to join. But some of the symptoms of adrenal fatigue, meaning that you have a high stress lifestyle, which can interfere with weight loss, is some of these symptoms are unexplained hair loss, high frequency of getting the flu or respiratory disease, so a suppressed immune system, feeling lightheaded if you stand up quickly, alternating some IBS symptoms, constipation, diarrhea, tendency to gain weight, pain in the upper back or neck for no reason, and brain mindset stuff like brain fog, that sort of thing. So we're going to keep going looking at adrenals, but what has happened in our world is we have this defense mechanism in our body called fight or flight, where, if we were being chased by a bear, our body would kick into fight or flight. We would fight the bear or we would run from the bear. And that is a really important defense mechanism. And when that's happening, nothing else is happening optimally in the body. You're not digesting food. Your immune system is turned off. Your body is literally putting oxygen and nutrients to your limbs so that you can survive. The problem with today's world is our lifestyle keeps us in chronic fight or flight, and we're not shutting that fight or flight situation off. Our busy schedules, we get out of bed, we have 1,000 things to do, we got stress with work, we've got stress with finances, we got stress with relationships, we got all of these obligations that we want to pile on ourselves. We've just survived 2 years of a pandemic. That's partly why we did this in January. All of these things keep us in this chronic stress response. And then we wonder why we don't feel good often or as good as we could. So adrenals is a big one. I find almost every single person needs a little bit of work for their adrenals. And there's actually some factors that, can impact adrenals. If you have allergies, emotional stress, lack of sleep, again, same with thyroid. Fear, too much caffeine is an issue as well. If you need caffeine and sugar to get through your day, there's a problem there. We can help you with that. Not relaxing, physical stress, financial pressures, toxins significantly impact the adrenal glands. So there's a lot of things that really interfere with these guys. And when we tie adrenals into weight loss, just a couple more people in here. When we tie it into weight loss, the body doesn't care about weight loss when you are in a highly stressed state. In fact, when you are in a highly stressed state, oftentimes the only way to take off weight is to significantly restrict. And then that restrictive program just doesn't support healthy body composition, as we talked about last week in our registration class. So the problem with high cortisol, being in this high stress state where the adrenal glands are pumping out cortisol, is a few different things. One, it's linked to increased appetite and overeating because the body's like, I need to get more energy. I'm stressed all the time. So the appetite never actually gets shut off. So if this is you, if you're somebody who feels like, why am I hungry all the time? Check your stress levels. There's a reason for it. It's also connected with insulin resistance. When we get into insulin resistance, what that means is that our cells can't take energy or glucose out of the bloodstream efficiently. And because it can't take this energy out, this energy causes fatty tissue deposits. It increases weight gain. And then it can lead to things like metabolic syndrome, where you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic. And now you also have cardiovascular concerns. This is all caused by stress. This is a big problem. Fatigue, we have it linked to metabolic syndrome, which I just explained. And it was interesting when I was doing my research for this class, it said prior research has demonstrated that eating that dieting or restriction of calorie intake does not lead to long-term weight loss. So we've been teaching that for a long time. But this study tested the hypothesis that diet is ineffective because it increases chronic psychological stress and cortisol production, two factors that are known to cause weight gain. And we don't recommend restrictive programs because protein is a much faster source of fuel than fat. In order for your body to break down fatty tissue, it has to be able to deal with the toxins inside of it. So restrictive programs, often the results are temporary at best. It causes disruption in body composition. And now we know that it actually causes psychological stress, which now further increases cortisol production, which leads to increased appetite, overeating, insulin resistance, fatigue, and it's linked to metabolic syndrome, which we all know can impact your weight. Is this making sense? Go in, put a number 1 in the chat here if this is making sense for you guys. Let me know that you're doing okay with this, because it's a lot of information, and it's why, okay, you guys are getting it. Awesome. All right, so now let's look at estrogen. So we've just looked at thyroid, impacts metabolism. We just looked at adrenals. If we're living these high stress lifestyles, that's impacting thyroid. It's also keeping us constantly in this storage mode, right? So now let's look at estrogen. Now there's 3 types of estrogen. We just recently covered this on nutritional protection against breast cancer, and they vary in strength from strongest to weakest. And our goal is to have more of the weaker form of estrogen. Now, having more of the weaker form of estrogen, that's actually impacted by the quality of the foods you're eating, your liver pathways, the amount of nutrients in your diet, and your gut health. If you're not eliminating well every single day, if you don't have a good bacterial culture, that can actually impact your estrogen levels as well. So there's a lot of factors that come in. So if you have an estrogen dominant condition, endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, polycystic breast, family history of breast cancers, really heavy periods, PMS, there's so many symptoms associated, that's a really good indication that you need some work to properly metabolize estrogen. When our body breaks down estrogen, there's two pathways that it can go down. One's a good pathway, one's a bad pathway. And if it's going down the bad pathway, you'll often have estrogen dominant symptoms, and the list is just massive around that. So there's a reason we're talking about estrogen for weight loss, but just to kind of give you a bit of an understanding, we do not want high levels of estrogen in our body. Part of the reason is because estrogen causes cells to replicate. And if our estrogen levels are really high, those cells can replicate really quickly. That can cause mistakes within the DNA. So we can end up with cancerous cells, and we can also grow cancerous cells faster if our estrogen levels are high. I deal in my practice with a lot of estrogen dominant cancers, and we have to really support the body's ability to properly break that down. Some of us, it's genetic. In my family, all of my aunts had hysterectomies in their early 30s. They had their babies, they had hysterectomies because they had horrible monthly cycles. And that was a huge, indication that genetically my family is not going down the right estrogen pathway. So I need to put extra work into making sure that my liver pathways for estrogen metabolism are well supported, which is really, really important. So you can look at family history, you can look at your own symptoms to see if maybe this is an issue. And there's actually one thing men and women alike when it comes to estrogen we need to worry about. So let's look at estrogen and weight loss. So elevated estrogen levels are often seen in people who carry extra weight. So there's this connection between estrogen. Like, it's kind of like chicken and the egg. Did the elevated estrogen cause the excess weight, or did the excess weight cause the elevated estrogen? Chicken and the egg, right? And everybody, it's going to be a little bit different. One might be one might be the other, right? So but we do tend to see these higher risk factors for these estrogen dominant conditions, higher risk factors for female cancers when there's a little bit of excess weight and the estrogen levels are higher. Estrogen levels that are too high or too low can cause weight gain. So it's not like thyroid where, if your thyroid's overactive, your metabolism's revved up, and you're probably not going to have a hard time losing weight. Whereas hypothyroid, your metabolism is in the down position and you're going to have a difficult time losing weight. Estrogen, if it's too high, it can cause weight loss issues. If it's too low, it can cause weight loss issues, as we see like in menopause and perimenopause. And for my perimenopause and menopause ladies, I have an entire slide of protocol dedicated to you guys in week 2. So I got you. I got some stuff to help you out. So high estrogen is linked to insulin resistance as well. So we talked about that in adrenals. So we don't want that. We don't want the body in storage mode. And low estrogen during menopause can cause the body to try to store estrogen in the body's fat cells, which is why all you ladies come into my practice and say, Alyssa, I'd like to lose this. Now listen, if I had a magic wand and I could choose where it comes off, you know where it's going to come off? Your boobs. It never fails. I'm sorry, I can't control it. But a lot of women, they complain around menopause or afterwards in this midsection, but think about where your ovaries are. And as they're producing less estrogen, your body's going to start to store that extra estrogen in those areas to kind of compensate. So again, I wish I had a magic wand, but I'm going to help you metabolize estrogen better, which should help. So here's a great chart of some estrogen dominant symptoms. Again, these are not a way to diagnose, but just to help you understand that there is usually a root cause for symptoms. Symptoms are not meant to be lived with. The symptoms are meant to be investigated and to be understood and understand where the imbalance is, because we cannot fix things by masking the symptoms. And that's the challenge sometimes with some medications. We're not addressing the root cause. When I get a headache and I take Advil, Advil dealt with the symptom. Advil didn't deal with the cause, right? Maybe I was dehydrated. Maybe I had too much caffeine. Maybe I had too much sun, or I'm having some sort of allergic reaction to something that's fairly mild but causing a headache. So it doesn't address root cause. So these are just some common symptoms that are associated. And again, for estrogen testing, the most accurate is your saliva testing. And when you do estrogen testing, I also, for those of you who are making notes, you also want to get your progesterone tested. So what medicine does when it treats elevated estrogen is they give you progesterone, because estrogen and progesterone are these two balancing, think of a teeter-totter. If estrogen's up, the progesterone can be a bit lower. What medicine believes is if we just bump up the progesterone, that'll help to balance it out. But what ends up happening is you have hormone poisoning, you have abnormal amounts of progesterone and estrogen. It's the perfect recipe for disaster, especially for weight gain. Progesterone will cause weight gain as well. So if you've been on progesterone treatments and you're like, why am I not losing weight? A lot of IUDs are also progesterone based as well. So again, instead of fixing the hormone pathways and supporting estrogen metabolism, we've just added another hormone. Doesn't, again, manages symptoms, creates more symptoms, doesn't address root cause. So again, keep those questions in there, guys. I see them coming in. I'm going to get through this, and we will talk about those. So hang out with me afterwards. Okay, so this is the one, I talk about it all the time. If you've never heard of xenoestrogens, I want to encourage you to do your research. I want you to take this word and I want you to study it. If there's one thing in the next 4 weeks you walk away from, this is the one that is so incredibly important. This is the one that is, I believe, is why breast cancer in men is one of the fastest growing cancers on the planet. And that is because these man-made chemicals called xenoestrogens act like estrogen in our body, but think like estrogen on steroids. So I do a lecture, Nutritional Protection Against Breast Cancer, and I originally wrote that lecture, I think around 2010. And at that time, there were 70,000 registered xenoestrogenic chemicals in Canada. Can you assume that number's probably gone down? No, it hasn't. I'm sure it's gone up. I don't even want to know. So where do we find these chemicals? And this is something we're going to talk about more next week and helping you. And just so you know, what helps to balance estrogen levels and support estrogen metabolism, xenoestrogens are tougher than regular normal person-made like estrogens in my body. But the protocol that you can use to balance estrogen actually does help to break down these xenoestrogens. But really, honest to goodness, you want to do the things to protect yourself and to avoid these as much as possible. So we find xenoestrogens, so they mimic strong estrogen. There were 70,000 registered xenoestrogenic chemicals in Canada. 70,000. Like this is crazy. This is why we have to be educated consumers. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, plastics. Please never drink out of a plastic bottle you put in the car. Actually, in fact, don't drink out of plastic. Don't eat out of plastic. Don't store in plastic. You can put cold things in plastic only, but no hot things. Don't heat in plastic. Dry cleaning, animal feed, the feed that if they spray. So for example, if they spray the crops with pesticides and then they feed those to the animals, those pesticides are now concentrated inside that animal, and then we consume the animal. Right? That's why organic meat is so important. Groundwater. What is the water? If you got cattle next to, or chickens next to a field that's being sprayed, it goes into the groundwater. Preservatives, skin lotions and cosmetics. Be really, really cautious about what you choose to put on your body. Your skin absorbs everything. Shampoo, perfume, Febreze, chlorinated water, detergents, petrochemicals, and medication. So we can't avoid all of these things, but we can do things to reduce our exposure. We can grow our own food. We can make our own body care or buy quality body care products. There's amazing body care products out there. And just to kind of hammer home the pesticide thing, because pesticides get on my nerves, and we have a huge problem with our bee population right now because of the chemicals that we are poisoning them with. And when we buy foods that are grown with chemicals, we're saying, hey, that's okay. We got to stop doing that, right? Farmers market, find your local organic, try to shop organic if it's cost effective for you, grow your own, it's free money. or free food, saving you money. So what do we know is associated with pesticides? Skin, eye, and lung irritation, hormone disruption. What are we talking about? Hormones and weight loss, brain and nervous system toxicity. We know it's linked to cancer. We know it's linked to blood disorders, nerve disorders, birth defects, and reproduction effects. And, whatever you choose, it is you get to make your choices, but we are here to encourage you to make good choices that are good for you, your family, and for our world as well. And that's actually why a lot of us Tower Garden in here. And this is not a Tower Garden presentation, but I want to encourage you to get some information on these, because this is an excellent way to reduce those xenoestrogens, to get rid of those pesticides. It allows you to have fresh veggies year round because you can grow indoors and outdoors. It uses 98% less water. It recycles the same water. It costs about $20 a year in electricity to run your tower for the entire year, which is awesome. Yields up to 30% higher, grows 3 times faster, no weeding or digging required, and it saves on space. So Tower Gardens are incredible technology. We actually have an entire Tower Garden library ready for you with videos and how-tos and Q&As. Just connect with the person who connected you in here. And most importantly, there is no chemicals on those Tower Gardens, which is amazing and so good. So let's summarize this, and I'm going to give you some homework for the week. So thyroid impacts metabolism, right? We know this. So are you already dealing with hypothyroidism? Do you have some of those symptoms that showed up? Do you need to investigate this further? Book an appointment, get some blood work done. Adrenals produce cortisol. If we don't manage our stress, it's impossible to lose weight and to keep it off without doing really heavy restrictions. And we know heavy restrictions actually increase cortisol production, so it's not going to work. And estrogen can be stored in fatty tissue. Your body has to be prepared to deal with it when you're working on body composition improvement. So because we store excess estrogen in fatty tissue, when we want to do weight loss and focus on breaking down that fatty tissue, our body has to be capable of dealing with that estrogen that's stored in those fatty tissue cells. If we don't, we break down and release that estrogen into the body, and now we've created more hormonal disruption. So I know this is a lot of info. I promise you, I'm going to walk you through how to balance each of these areas. So whatever you're feeling you need to work on, you can work on all 3, you can work on 1, you're going to get some protocol to do that. So let me give you some homework for this week. And I want you to write this down, and we're going to keep it easy week 1, but just so you know, week 2, we do these 4 steps plus 4 more. And then in week 3, we're going to add 4 more. And then in week 4, we're going to add 4 more. So by the end of the program, you're going to have 12 lifestyle steps put in place that are going to help you over the next. So number 1, I want y'all drinking a green smoothie, and I'll make sure I get this posted in both the 500 Families and the Hormone group tomorrow. This is my favorite. It's a green goddess smoothie. It's delicious. Okay. Buy your frozen avocados. So good. But I want you to have a green smoothie every single day. Green smoothies help to provide the nutrients that help support healthy liver function. We got some hormone balancing smoothie recipes that we're going to get posted in the hormone and weight loss group for you guys as well. But every day, 7 days a week, I want you to have greens in your smoothie. Now, if you are using chocolate, that is okay. I like greens in my chocolate. Grab some organic spinach, grab some kale off your Tower Garden, some Swiss chard off your Tower Garden, grab some organic parsley, throw that in, but green smoothie. The other thing, minimum 2 liters of water every day, drink out of glass. Look at this. My friend Debbie made me a Tower Garden mason jar because I drink out of mason jars. 2 liters minimum a day, all right, of water. Going to flush the body, help your body start to get rid of toxins, make sure the bowels are moving, and that green smoothie is going to give you some first steps. Number 2, if you're taking Juice Plus and you're in the group, and you've been on Juice Plus for a while, you can double up. So when you take your Juice Plus products, those 2 capsules of each a day, so 1 red, 1 green, 1 purple, 1 orange at breakfast, 1 red, 1 green, 1 purple, 1 orange at dinner, that's amazing. That's good daily nutrition. That's good maintenance. What we actually want you to do is increase your nutrients. When your body starts to break down toxins and eliminate them and balance and heal and repair, it needs extra. So you could take a dose at breakfast, a dose at lunch, and a dose at dinner. That's going to up your dose. You could do spread it out over 4 times a day. But you can safely, with our products, it's powdered fruits and vegetables. There's no toxicity. There's no concerns. But you can safely start to increase your dose just for a short while. Let's just give your body a nutrition boost. Why would we juice and make smoothies and eat good food? We do it to give our body a nutrition boost. So it'll increase the nutrients available to help your body heal and detoxify, which is really important if you want to break down fatty tissue and improve body composition. Now, step 3, you're going to journal about the foods and how you're feeling. Now, for those of you in the Hormone and Weight Loss program, our amazing Nikki, she's already posted the journal tonight for you. Go into the file section. We're going to build some guides out as we get some more files posted for you. But grab that and journal, because when you track your habits, you can immediately identify places that you can make improvements. It helps keep you accountable. It helps you understand how you're feeling, how foods impact your body. Really, really important to being successful. This is one of the top things I get all of my clients to do, is to track their foods. Now, I don't want you to beat yourself up over things that aren't going as well as planned. It's not about being perfect. What I want you to look at is all of the good things that you're doing for your body. Your food journal should be a representation of how you are taking care of yourself. And if there's one thing that landed in there that shouldn't have landed in there, oh well, keep going. But you don't beat yourself up over it. Look at all the good stuff that you're doing for your body, how you're nourishing your body. And number 4, follow the meal plans. Now, we have 2 types of meal plans in there. We brought in the meal plans from the adrenal program for any of you who've missed it. It's in the Hormone and Weight Loss group. For those of you who are identifying with high stress, that's a blood sugar stabilizing plan. It's appropriate calories for healthy body composition improvements. And then we also have a shred plan built out. So our shred program is amazing. If you haven't followed the shred, we've got a 30-day shred meal plan ready for you as well. So 4 weeks of shred meal plan, or 30 days of shred meal plan, plus another 3 weeks of the adrenal plan. You can download those, print them off, follow them. The closer you follow them, the better results you're going to get. So if you're like, it's spring, I'm in this, I'm invested in myself, I bought these products, I'm growing on my tower garden, I am doing it, grab those meal plans, make use of them, because they are professionally designed by me. Awesome. So I am going to thank you. Those of you in Facebook world, I am so appreciative of you. Thank you for being a part of our community and hanging out with us tonight. Please feel free to post questions. Those of you in Zoom world, get your questions in that chat. I'm going to hang around and answer those. So thank you guys so much. We will see you in week 2, where we're going to focus on protocol for these 3 areas, help you balance them out. But there's some actionable items to get you started for this week. If you have to dash, thank you. I totally get it. And we'll talk to you soon. Okay, what questions? I saw one up here I want to go back to. Remind me. Here we go. There's lots of fluoride in teas as they use it during the dyeing. Debbie knows, but I don't get periods would be option in that case. Okay, so let's just see here. Hello from Calgary. Are there videos? Just admit this person. Are there videos out there that explains hormones, what they are, and how they work, and how they break it down? So yes, Isabel, there is so much information. My suggestion is kind of thinking about, like, what area are you the most interested in? Are you dealing with some estrogen stuff? Then we can recommend some books or some videos specific. If you go general hormones, like tonight I could have talked about 10 hormones. If you go general hormones, you're going to get a lot of very general information. If you really want to learn about a specific hormone, then, like, for adrenals, like, there's a really great book I have here. This is a really, really great book on adrenal health. Adrenal fatigue and if it was thyroid, I don't have one on my shelf right now, but I do have a book on thyroid that you can look at those specific. This book is one of my favorite. I think every woman should read it. It's called The Complete Natural Medicine Guide to Breast Cancer. This is an excellent book. It's written by Dr. Satdharm Kaur, and it's all about balancing hormones. I think every woman should read that book. Okay. Husband has go slowly, pigment came back in the area. Oh, okay, cool, awesome, very interesting. Which is autoimmune. I don't get periods, but what would be the option in that case? So Isabella, it would depend on kind of where you felt like it was hitting you. Like, are you diagnosed with hypothyroidism? Deal with high stress? Are you in perimenopause? We're going to talk about that, or menopause. All right, let's keep going down here to the bottom. Oh, sorry about that. If I cut out, you may have any of these symptoms: weight gain. Can you have many of these symptoms but not have weight gain? Absolutely, Erica. So I sometimes see estrogen dominant conditions in people that don't have any sort of challenges around carrying a little bit of extra weight. So absolutely. Hypothyroid, you can, but typically one of the biggest symptoms for hypothyroid is weight gain, and adrenals, it can go either way. Adrenals can, for some people, can cause them to be so stressed that they don't eat and they lose weight, or cause them to that appetite is just continually in that on position. So it really does. $20 a year, Tower Gardens with lights. So we had, Isabel, if you're still on, we had a project with the city of Aurelia, and we had to hire an engineer and an electrician to come in to tell us the cost of electricity per Tower Garden per year, so that they could work it into the city budget. We were growing on Tower Gardens to produce food for the food banks and soup kitchen. And after their calculations, it was $20 per year in electricity. So pretty awesome, pretty worthwhile. Okay, test for iodine. Thank you. Is there enough people on here to hang out for that? So iodine test, what you do is you go to the store and you buy some iodine like you would to clean a wound. And we're going to put a little bit just on the inside of your arm, just a little circle about the size of a quarter, and put it on fairly good, let it air dry. And I'll check the hours. I'll post it in the group. I think it's within 12 hours. If it's completely gone, your body's absorbed it, you're iodine deficient. The best way to supplement, iodine can be toxic in large doses. So the best way to supplement with iodine is food. But thank you, Kathy, for mentioning that. I'll make sure I build that into next week's slides. Does it have to be pineapple? Not sure what you're saying. Doubling up a GP is incredible for Maria's autoimmune. Absolutely. I love that you share that. Taking something for eye health. Do I still need to double up on my Juice Plus? It's up to you, Tara. Totally up to you. There's no toxicity. Iodine test. Thank you, Jody. I'm hardly ever hungry, but when I eat, I just don't know what to do. Okay, so Christy, there might be some imbalances. You might be worth going and getting some hormone testing, but you're still going to learn some great protocols here. Is it okay to drink bottled water in a glass, or should not drink plastic? No, if you can avoid, like I was out with my kids and was thirsty as all get out, and I didn't pack my water, I bought a bottle of water. But if you can avoid plastic bottled water at all costs, please do. You're getting those xenoestrogens. Polycystic ovary disease and a thyroid problem. Yep, those are probably, so polycystic ovary disease and hypothyroidism are two hormonal imbalances. Like I said, a lot of times these hormonal imbalances can overlap or are connected, but those would be thyroid and estrogen. Meal plan will be posted first thing tomorrow morning. It's already loaded. Wednesday mornings it'll get posted. I meant to say that. So thank you for asking. And an IUD with, yeah. Name of the breast cancer book again, the Complete Natural Medicine Guide to Breast Cancer. Meal plans will be posted tomorrow. If you have Juice Plus gummies, how many gummies would you advise? So the gummies have a little bit of natural sugar, they're fine. I don't typically get people to double up on the gummies. So the capsules are a bit stronger, so you can just continue with your daily gummy dose for sure. To the iodine test, and within 12 hours it was gone. Yeah. So potential iodine deficiency. Sorry, misput our iodine test. Yes, iodine. You guys are so awesome. Did that help? Iodine in here, crook your arm. Did I pause? And then you're going to just see how it absorbs within 12 hours. Thoughts on stash or grade food silicone bags? So as far as we know, silicone bags are okay. Awesome. So glad. Amazing. I'm going to stop this recording.